There were people who, after the Civil War, after the Emancipation Proclamation, they were not free. They were supposed to be, but there was still this chokehold. And I even now I beg the question of like seeing all of the structural changes that are happening within our legal systems and stripping away those things that we fought for, lived for, many of us, our ancestors died and bled for. And the idea that our power is being stripped away, or they're trying to strip power away. Like we fought, we lived, we breathed, we died. We fought to have what we have.
Yeah.
And so this show for me is a clarion call to remember who we are, to remember what we had to endure, to remember that there is a beauty in Blackness. There's a power in Blackness. There is a perseverance. There's a fight. Right?
And welcome back to the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, the Broad Street Review Podcast, Season 10. These conversations just keep churning out, and they are great conversations. If you are an avid listener and you are caught up, good for you. If you're not caught up, go back to one of 39 episodes and find out about all the amazing work that's been going on our stages. Like, the amount of coverage I've done on this podcast doesn't even scratch the surface for how amazing our theater community is here in Philadelphia. So if you're a part of it, great. You already know. If you're not, get in here, see what's going on. And today is no exception. We're going over to South Philadelphia to talk to Theater Exile about the upcoming production, The Great Privation, or How to Flip 10 Cents into a Dollar by Nia Akilah Robinson, directed by Ontaria Kim Wilson, who is in the studio with us today. Ontaria, welcome back to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me again. Feels like another home.
Absolutely. We talked at the end of the season because you were directing at the end of Theater Exile season, and now you're here again at the end of Theater Exile season. Does Theater Exile have its claws in you, or its warm embrace in you? Are you just permanently planted here, or you just got lucky?
It's family. I feel like we have made the connection. It's a real relationship that I have with Exile. The embracing, the welcoming, and just being given opportunities just to create and share in storytelling has been a pleasure. And I have 3 theaters that I call like home base: Theater Exile, Eagle Poe, and the Wilma has treated me really nice as well. I can't leave out Interact because I've done 2 productions there as well. So
Awesome.
Philly has wrapped her arms around me. So I'm
Absolutely.
excited about that.
In a wonderful embrace. We're so glad to have received you. All right. Last time we talked about Glitter in the Glass by R. Eric Thomas, and now we're talking about The Great Privation. So tell us in general what The Great Privation, or How to Flip 10 Cents into a Dollar, is about.
The Great Privation is a love story between a mother and a daughter who exists both in 1832 and 2026, our present time. It shows the love, the perseverance that Black women and Black bodies endure throughout time here in our home of the United States of America. It dives into the treatment of Black bodies for medical research, and it's very much about grave digging, grave robbing, resurrectionists who in the 19th century would come and unearth bodies for medical research. Specifically in this story, it's about the study of the cholera pandemic that shook the world. And it just, it gives you an insight into how we've navigated pandemics, how we've navigated protecting our communities, Black communities, from those people who devalue not just Black folk, but also like marginalized folks, particularly in our current condition that we live in, our unhoused folks, people who don't have people to speak on their behalf. And so it's a mirror up to that part of our society. And so but it's a play that's full of joy and full of connection, familial connections that stem from friendships. And again, it feels like all the stories that I tell are always like a connector between cultures and bringing them together and not being afraid to like look our conflicts in the face and have those conversations that ultimately like journey us into the possibility of a collective wholeness, collective understanding, and in this case, a collective respect for our fellow human being.
Yeah, well said. What were your first thoughts of The Great Privation when you read it?
Woo!
And when? And when was that? Because I imagine over time there had been some changes that may have.
Yeah. So I read it last year. And when I first read it, I thought to myself, oh my goodness, how can I do this?
Mhm.
Because it's the way that it's written. We jump between time periods. Similarly to Glitter in the Glass, I had a handle on that, but this is a different structuring the way that it's written. In regards to some of the things that it calls for, I just had a whole lot of wonders. And so I was interested to dig deeper. I really leaned into, during my first one or two reads, I would lean into what it meant to be a woman living in the 1800s, being able to survive on her own without her husband and being considered a marginalized individual, and just how do you navigate? How do you stay afloat? How do you protect your family? How do you maintain having a living or a degree of survival? And just understanding like who we are as Black women and the journey we've had to take throughout our time here. So that was one of the things that like really drew me to the story. And then the relationship between Mother and Charity. It made me think about the relationship that I had with my mother and the
Mm,
age difference, and how even, when you're a young mother, it doesn't change the fact that you are a mother
mhm.
and you're kind of propelled into adulthood quicker than what you should probably be thrust in. But then to see the dynamics of that mother-daughter relationship kind of intertwine, where Charity, the daughter, at times has to like uplift mom and protect mom. And it just shows the beauty in the relationship between a parent and their child.
Mhm.
And then because I have a background in the medical sector, it made me think about all of the folks that I've had to deal with who would, come and go from the different departments that I worked in, and how oftentimes as practitioners, you build a guard and you have to be careful not to address people or just look at the body or as a specimen, but look at the body as like a human being that holds value. And that's, where does your humanity go in the midst of you doing the work that you do?
Yeah.
So those are like the three main prompts for me that propelled me into wanting to do this story.
And so a year ago you read this. Is that story that you read a year ago still pretty much intact? Is it all there? Has there been any dramatic adjustments since your initial read, or does it still flow pretty much the same?
It flows pretty much the same. I think there's been like a deeper dive into the relationships between the characters, if anything. Yeah, for me, that would just, the intentionality behind like why the characters do what they do, how those connections kind of surfaced. One thing that was interesting when I spoke to Nia, she had mentioned that the role of the janitor, or the character of the janitor, was the inspiration for writing the play. And so initially reading, I didn't get that, but after going back and diving into it again, I could see where his influence kind of helps to propel the story forward and propel us into both our present and our future, because he presents as somewhat of a griot slash prophet slash manifestation of Cuffy in the present. So
Mm.
yeah. So there was work that was done. But yeah, for me,
Wow.
those are like the differences.
Yeah, and thinking about in a workspace, the people who know pretty much everything are the people that you least expect, and it would be custodial staff, be the janitor. The janitor knows so much and can pretty
Hmm.
much guide guide anyone through anything, because there are a lot of there are a lot of people, there are a lot of roles that are very much like this, where they kind of appear to be invisible, and the people around them sort of carry on as if they are not there or as if they don't exist. And a lot of information tends to be received because of that invisibility, which is just so interesting that Naya's way into this story was through the janitor.
And like when I think about that, I know that in like some classical theater, you have like mute individuals who present, and they are the ones who, again, like you said, they take in all of the information and their silence rings volumes, and you want to know their story. You want to know, what they have to say. But in respect to this story, the janitor is very present, is very vocal. However, he's been positioned so that he can take in information and the how-tos of how things are done. And he is the one that thrusts us into the future of medicine. And we, when and sitting with the cast, like we had those questions of like, was he an assistant to the doctors, being a janitor? Was his role multi layered, being in that environment, and just knowing like the difficulty in accessing the knowledge and the practice didn't necessarily mean that you had to like go through a complete schooling like we do today, like a
Hmm.
10 years before you become a doctor. Like that just wasn't the thing. Yeah, so there's a lot of interest around him.
Let's go into the rehearsal room and tell us about the cast that you put together for this and what their thoughts were about their character and the story overall as you began to work in the room.
So I have the illustrious pleasure of directing Andre Brown, who is a native of New Jersey, did a lot of theater in Philadelphia quite a few years ago. Then he moved to the West Coast, and I was able to bring him back. So this is his return home. So Andre Brown plays Cuffy and the janitor. Then we have Ange Bay, aka Rain, who plays mom slash Minnie slash mother, who is a brilliant creative actor, writer, director. There's so much that's wrapped up into them.
All around awesome human being.
Oh my gosh. And just to be in the room with them is like phenomenal. And we have Samaja Murphy, who is a recent Temple grad. She graduated about a year ago. And so this is her second rotation in the Philadelphia theater scene. She's done work with Theater in the X, and she plays in this show, she plays Charity. Then we have Aiden McDonald. Aiden McDonald is a graduate from Rowan University. He's been doing some things around town. And Aiden is like a sponge who's just to watch his augmentation into like different versions of who John is. So we have a John in the past, John in the present. And just to watch him journey through and become different iterations of John is a phenomenal process.
Mm.
So all of the actors, all of the characters quantum leap throughout the story. And there's a constant switching on and off of like, who am I now? And so, we did a lot of, we did viewpoints and some body work and resonating and a lot of those things that we're trained to do. We had to bring those things in real time into the room. And this is a very physical show because we're dealing with the becoming of other people, other beings. And so there was just a lot of like physicality. I threw in some under the radar check off work to kind of like get us into, the flow of like how you cross the threshold and become something else. How do you
Mm.
shake it off once you've jumped into the body or allowed another being to jump into your body to do the work and to tell their stories? And it's a very spiritual piece. So we dive into Christianity, we dive into African religion. So there's a lot of moving parts. And so we've been very sensitive to every aspect of the work, holding the actor, holding the tradition of those things that are mentioned in the script, and honoring these characters that we're portraying. And ultimately, it's an honoring of those people who came before us. And there's an honor, a respect, an uplifting an enlightenment that's happened along the way that helps us to understand them better and helps us to understand who the present day characters are. It's been juicy.
It sounds like we know you're all professionals and y'all know how to do this, but it sounds like there's so many layers here to really authentically portray these characters. And so talk about the time frame that you have from first table read to, first preview and how that sort of weighs on the mind as you are portraying multiple characters, carrying foundations of history with you and jumping time
Yeah.
from the 1800s to present day.
So our first table read or the table read was on May 5th. Yeah, that was the first because we had a few. We did a lot of table work. But May 5th is when we started rehearsal. We had tech this past weekend. So May 22nd, May 23rd. So literally 2 weeks before our designer run to do all of the blocking, all of the stuff, to do all of the creating. And then post designer run, we went in and just started flushing out the story even more and tying in the physicality. Like we took time, we took like 2 days to actually do the physical work, to do the emotional work, to do those things that we needed to do to connect the actors to the characters, to their bodies, and just we spent time exploring. So last week was exploration before our tech, and now tonight is our dress rehearsal. So not a lot of time. And previews start Thursday. So a 3-week turnaround is pretty
Yes.
much what we had to work with. And as far as the actors, that's a lot. That is a lot in 3 weeks to
Yeah.
try to gobble down the text, manage the language. Because what we noticed in this process is that while Nia is contemporary in her writing or as a writer, her text is heightened.
Mm.
And oftentimes we don't think about contemporary playwrights, and working in heightened text, but it's that. There's poetic influence, the way that some of the script is structured is like honoring timing and rhythm and all of that stuff. And it's a lot to digest for the actors. And being a guide post for them, because that's all I am, is a guidepost, I want to make sure that they are always okay. So whatever they need to do for their mental and their wellness, they get time for that. When they're ready to move on to certain parts, we talk about it. Like they have full autonomy, have had full
Hmm.
autonomy, because I understand what it means. I'm an actor, so I understand what it means to jump in and out of a character and to do the work and to do life, to do your own life on top of that is a lot
Hmm.
to carry. So
Yeah.
just honoring them in the space, giving them the room to talk, to breathe, to move, to rest, to release, to do all the work
Yeah.
in a short period of time. So it's been
To
interesting.
and also to remember the joy that they bring in to the room and to not forget that as you are portraying these characters that you are still those people who do all of that and who take care of themselves, bring themselves
Yeah.
into that space.
And what I will say is this group, they lift each other up. There's always comedy. There's always like reassurance and support. They've built community. And it's interesting, like being the director, but also being an actor. I feel like I'm a part of a community outside of a community.
Hmm.
Like when they go into their dressing rooms, it's like I can't go back there. And I made the comment the other day. I was like, I want to go back there, but I know I can't.
That's their space.
That's their space. But is and again, being an actor, I'm like, but okay. But they've forged this beautiful relationship that's there. And it's been a gorgeous process.
That's
Yeah.
that's great.
I would take all of them wherever I go. Hmm.
So we know that if we can't find them, they're probably in the backseat of your car. No, no, no. We got somewhere we have to go.
Going for a joyride.
So this piece is set in Philadelphia, although our playwright is not a Philadelphian, but wrote this story, and it actually there is history here because the African Methodist Episcopal Church in South Philly that is this sort of plot foundation for this piece
Mhm.
is now Mother Bethel AME Church.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. And so,
So
yeah, go ahead.
Mother Bethel, well, that church is one of the parent churches for the African American community here in America, and it holds so much history. Richard Allen being the founder, having people who have been members of that congregation, their families have been members of the congregation for 100 years plus. There's a beauty in just the story and the refuge that that church was for African Americans here. It provided a burial ground where Black bodies couldn't be buried in just anywhere. Like, we had specific areas where we could be buried,
Mm,
safe places where we could be buried and honored, and the sacred nature of burial was upheld there. And for other churches that didn't have a burial site, they were able to come and bury their loved ones. And so, like, I'm a member of Mount Zion United Methodist Church, which is a sister church to
mhm,
Mother Bethel, and where Mother Bethel has been around for a little over 200 years. My church has been around, this is our 111th year of being here. And
mm,
again, the rich history that just like permeates throughout those communities, it's a beautiful thing. And there's been the burial site is no longer at its original spot. There's a playground there now.
mhm.
Mother Bethel is not at the original location, but it's just a few blocks away from the original.
Mm,
And when Nia was here last week, I drove her to the playground. And for her just to step down onto, I want to say the soil, but the concrete of South Philadelphia, where our story takes place, it woke something up in her even the
mm,
more, because there's nothing like writing a story, being inspired by a story that you've read and heard, and actually then traveling to the place. And so she was very excited about that. And I'm like, listen, when you come back, we can do some more tours. And I even started saying, like, Philadelphia is so rich. We have so much history. And being a native Philadelphian, it's not until I start doing this type of work that I actually start digging into our history. And
mhm.
I think that happens with most creatives. Like, that's the spark that like leads us forward and opens up, so much. But I said that this summer I wanted to take time to just go in and unearth some of the rich history that's there. Really quick, Mother Bethel has been involved in a lot of the historical debate about like Independence Hall, the Constitution Hall, and the whole fight to like get those paintings and portraits that were removed by this administration. Mother Bethel is at the front lines of movements like that, and they hold on to the rich history of being an activist group that supports and lifts up Black people and our history here in America. And it's interesting that this being our 250th year of being a country, right? We're celebrating that. But at the same time, we're still unearthing a lot of the
Mhm.
disparities that exist over that 250-year plus time period.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, okay, here I am again, the creative me, the director me, that's being called to tell more of our stories. And I've grown, I've accepted the fact that a torch has been passed to me, and I'm just one of those people that get called to tell our stories. So I'm
Yes.
honored to be a leader in it, and whatever that means, whatever I have to be, because if we don't do it, who's going to do it for us?
Yeah.
So
And so glad you answered that call. For those who've been listening for a while, know that my artistic home is Theater Exile. I was a part of the administrative team when this script came our way, and I read that script and said, "We have to do this. It is calling us right now." And to have a piece that's also affirming a history that is not pretty, that it happened
that's right.
while there is this conversation as the administration is trying to sort of erase the black marks, pun intended,
Mm-hmm.
in our history I don't to pretend none of that stuff existed. It's ridiculous. And I think it's why the art that is on our stages right now and conversations like the one here at the Great Privation are so important right now. And I love that this piece gets very close to the 4th of July and it has a significance in the story as well.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I mean, we're celebrating in the story. there's a call to celebrate July 4th. And
Mm-hmm.
the question is begged. Why am I celebrating this? I'm more inclined to celebrate Juneteenth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a line, and it's a conversation piece. And so for those people who think that there is a collective celebration of America's independence, it's the reminder that, yes, America received its independence, but Black people throughout the country did not as a collective.
Yeah.
And you can't ignore that. And there is, many people who are like, Juneteenth is something made up. It's like, no, it existed. There were people who, after the Civil War, after the Emancipation Proclamation, they were not freed. They were supposed to be, but there was still this chokehold. And I beg the question of, like, seeing all of the structural changes that are happening within our legal systems and stripping away those things that we fought for, lived for, many of us, our ancestors died and bled for. And the idea that our power is being stripped away, or they're trying to strip power away. Like, we fought, we lived, we breathed, we died. We fought to have what we have.
Yeah.
And so this show for me is a clarion call to remember who we are, to remember what we had to endure, to remember that there is a beauty in Blackness. There's a power in Blackness. There is a perseverance. There's a fight. Right. So we can't give up and lean into the foolishness that's happening now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, like, I'm like, okay, the torch is over my head. It's there, to whatever capacity. I'm here to speak up and speak out and be and exist, and make sure that the light keeps shining.
Yeah. Is there a moment in the piece that resonates with you more, or you look forward to this scene or this moment when it comes up?
I don't want to give too much away. The
We'll
relationship between
find a way.
the relationship between Mom and Charity. They do a dance, and the dance is one of comfort. It's one of assurance. It's one of pain. It's one of love. And every time they do that dance, my heart just goes, like, it's gripping. As simple as it is, it grips me every time. So I'm interested to see how audiences will walk away and how they'll receive it.
Yeah. Yeah, the emotion that comes through your body in dance, it's always stunning to watch. And so we'll look
Mhm.
forward to that moment.
And, like, there's like one. I'm a mover, so most times when you see work that I do, I'll kinda, like, throw my aesthetic in there. But there are some things going on, and Nia came to a rehearsal about a week ago. She was like, "They're dancing. I like it." So I'm excited about that too. So there are a few pocket
Wonderful.
moments, but yeah.
Yeah, and so what we know is that this piece was presented at Soho Rep first in New York,
Mhm.
and then it had a moment at Woolly Mammoth. Is that correct?
Mhm. That's correct.
Yes. Okay. And so through all that, now it's here in South Philadelphia. Do you feel any kind of like weight for knowing that these other productions haven't been too far, and they've been in a way kind of connected to this journey that brought it to Philadelphia in the first place? How do you feel as you think about that? Its journey, how it began, and where it is now with in the artistic care of Theater Exile.
It's an honor for it to be here. I feel like because we have a connection to Philadelphia, for me, because I have a connection to a certain degree to Mother Bethel, like, that's my extended church family. Being a Black body from Philadelphia and knowing a lot of our stories are consistently being, like, revealed so that we can be the conduits of the storytelling. It's an honor for it to be here as probably the fourth director for this piece, because I believe it was done in London, if I'm not mistaken. Honored. It was a little unnerving for me. I mean, I'm not a new director, but I just, in watching the journey that I'm on, I just feel like it was my time to tell this story, and I was chosen to tell it, and only we could tell this story this way. So, yeah.
Awesome. I want to like set the scene for us. Talk about how how your production team came together to visualize and give us sound and beauty, like how their involvement is bringing this story full circle for us all.
So my set designer, Dahlia. Ugh. Dahlia was a set designer for oh my gosh, Half Got a Rainfall at the Wilma. And she also was the set designer for Moreno at Interact. So I
Mm,
had relationship. I've worked with Dahlia before. And the way Dahlia thinks, she's always like, think big, think like you have $1 million, $5 million, $10 million, and then we'll scale back
yeah.
and we speak a similar language. And then Chris Sanino, I worked with Chris Sanino on with Eagle Poe when I directed As You Like It for Shakespeare in Clark Park. And we've worked together. So that's another person. That's my brother. So, the sounds are always buzzing. And then Lindsay is my lighting designer. And I've met Lindsay at Interact. I pulled her in to do XOXO at Theater Horizon. And I just love the way her mind percolates. And so that was my dream team for this. And the beautiful work that they do, just like transcending space and time, tapping into spirit, heart, soul, culture. They all studied to like figure out what this meant through my lens and just like grabbing hold to that and taking it with them and exploring, like they're all about exploring and play. And so that made it a beautiful connection. And I think all of the players from the cast to my designers, stage management, Melody Wong, like you can't go wrong, right?
That should be on a t-shirt.
Right? I got to tell her that when I go
Can't
back
go
in.
wrong with Melody Wong.
Yeah, and then, the artistic producer, you can't Deborah, like she just holds space. Like everybody just holds space and just loves on this work.
Hmm.
And it's made it a beautiful journey, a beautiful visual experience. So I'm looking forward to. And we've cracked open time and space. Can't tell you how, but it's been cracked open.
It's magic. It's theater
Mhm.
magic.
It's magic.
We got to get in that space for this history, for this love fest, for this mother and daughter journey,
Mhm.
for this final production of Theater Exile's 29th season. Isn't that
The end of an
crazy?
era.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. What do you hope the audience takes away from all the work that the cast and crew and you have done to and know as much of the roots of this conversation and bring this to life on the stage? What do you hope they walk away with?
There's a quote that Nia has at the end of the play, and it says, "One of us is all of us. One of us is all of us, and all of us is one of us," or something to that avail. And for me, it's a reminder that as a collective, it's our responsibility to hold up the past, to hold up each other. And through the toughest of times, it's imperative that we stand with and for each other and protect each other, respect each other, regardless of difference, regardless of background, regardless of lived experience. And it's holding on to like our humanity, like who we are, because that supersedes anything else that could position difference. You know what I mean? It's like my desire is for the axle of difference to be broken apart and be reimagined. Like, how can we reimagine what community, what our world looks like, what love looks like? Yeah.
Yeah. The production is The Great Privation, or How to Flip 10 Cents into a Dollar. It's by Nia Akilah Robinson. It's directed by Ontaria Kim Wilson, who has spent all this time with us unpacking this piece. It is on stage pretty much. If you're listening to this, it's on stage now through June 14th. You can go to Theater Exile, and that's Theater REEXILE.org to get those tickets. That's tickets plural because theater is more fun with a plus one. So be part of this
Yes.
conversation. Ontaria, thank you so much for taking the time to come chat with me about this piece. I've been holding it in my head for a while since I've read it, and I can't wait to see it on stage with everyone's input all together to bring that to life on Exile stage. So thank you so
Mhm.
much for taking the
Thank you
time
for
to chat
having
with me. It
me.
was truly a pleasure.
Yes, it was. Thank you.